The girl in the elevator. No one at Blackridge Global ever noticed interns, except when they spilled coffee or asked too many questions. They were invisible by design, temporary shadows drifting through glass corridors and polished boardrooms. But on a rain-soaked Monday morning, as the city groaned awake under storm clouds, CEO Ethan Cole noticed one. Please subscribe our channel, A Story a Day, and drop your comment we're from you watching our stories. Thank you. The elevator doors slid shut on the 42nd floor, sealing him inside a capsule of silence and soft music. Ethan adjusted the cuff of his tailored suit, eyes fixed on the glowing numbers above the door. 5 minutes late for a board meeting that could reshape the company's future. $5 billion on the table, no room for distraction. Then the elevator jolted. The lights flickered once, twice, and died. A soft gasp broke the darkness. Ethan turned sharply. Is someone there? Yes, a female voice replied, steady but nervous. I think so. Emergency lights glowed faintly red, revealing a young woman standing a few feet away. She clutched a thin folder to her chest. Rain-damp hair pulled into a low ponytail, eyes wide but determined. I'm sorry, she said quickly. I didn't mean to get in your way. I'm just an intern. I can stand in the corner. Ethan frowned slightly. An intern? He glanced at his watch. No signal. Typical. It's fine, he said curtly. Looks like we're stuck. The woman nodded, swallowing hard. I'm Lily Hart. The name hit him like a punch to the chest. For a split second, the boardroom vanished. The skyscraper vanished. All Ethan could see was a sunlit library, dust motes floating in the air, and a girl laughing softly as she slid a book across a wooden table. Lily. His Lily. He hadn't heard that name spoken aloud in 12 years. Ethan forced his expression to remain neutral. Ethan Cole. Her eyes widened. I know who you are. Of course she did. Everyone did. Billionaire CEO, media darling, ruthless deal-maker, the man who never made mistakes. She offered a nervous smile. I've read all your interviews. He said nothing. His heart was pounding. Far too hard for a man who'd negotiated hostile takeovers without blinking. The elevator creaked, then went silent again. Minutes passed. Lily shifted her weight, clearly uncomfortable. This building always does this in the rain, she said lightly, as if trying to fill the void. I guess it's not the worst place to be stuck. Ethan studied her face more closely now, the curve of her cheek, the familiar softness around her eyes. Older, stronger, but unmistakably her. She doesn't recognize me, he realized. Back then, he'd been just another scholarship kid with borrowed clothes and borrowed dreams. She'd known him as Evan, not Ethan Cole, CEO of Blackridge Global. You work in which department? He asked carefully. Corporate strategy, she replied. I'm just helping with data analysis. Recognition and reckoning. The elevator doors groaned open, spilling Lily and Ethan into the polished marble of Blackridge Global's lobby. Rain streaked the glass walls, reflecting the city in fractured shards of neon and gray. For anyone else, the ride might have been an ordinary inconvenience. For Ethan, it was a turning point. He watched Lily scurry toward the elevators that would take her to the intern floor. She was small in the grand lobby, carrying that same determined, careful energy he remembered so well. His mind raced, and for a fraction of a second, he saw her as she had been all those years ago, bright-eyed, laughing, always reading in corners no one noticed. He followed, keeping his distance, careful not to startle her. Memories flooded back, childhood summers spent in quiet libraries, shared secrets between stacks of books, her hand brushing his as they exchanged dog-eared novels. He hadn't seen her in over a decade, yet she looked as familiar as the lines in his own hand. Lily, he called softly, his voice almost hesitant. She froze, mid-step, eyes darting toward him. Recognition didn't hit immediately. Her brow furrowed as she assessed the tall man in the sharp suit, the way his posture commanded attention, the intensity in his gaze. Then her eyes widened. Something clicked. Ethan? She whispered, incredulous. He nodded, a small, almost shy smile breaking through the veneer of CEO authority. It's been a long time. Her lips parted, searching for words, but none came. Memories collided with reality. 12 years ago, she had been Lily Hart, the girl who read too much, laughed too softly, and cared too fiercely. And he had been Evan Cole, a scholarship boy with dreams bigger than his apartment. They had shared something unspoken, fragile, fleeting, and then life had pulled them apart. Now she looked at him, older, stronger, but unmistakably the girl he had never stopped thinking about. When I didn't know you'd be... Her voice trailed off. She gestured vaguely to his suit, the polished building, the aura of power that seemed to radiate from him. I didn't expect to see you either, he admitted. But it seems fate has a sense of irony. Her gaze softened, but there was hesitation. I'm just an intern. Nothing important. Ethan's eyes drifted to the folder she clutched. Project Atlas. His pulse quickened. That project was everything. The $5 billion deal that could make or break the company's next fiscal year. And here she was, holding the key, unaware of its magnitude. I think you underestimate yourself, he said carefully, his voice low, almost tender. You've always been capable, Lily, always. A blush crept across her cheeks. She looked down at the folder, then back at him. You really remember me? Every detail, he confessed. Every laugh, every word, every moment. For a long beat, silence stretched between them, charged with unspoken emotion. The world around them, the boardrooms, the skyscraper. The boardroom surprise. The boardroom was a cathedral of glass and steel. Panoramic views of the city stretching behind the long, polished table. The room buzzed with anticipation. Investors, analysts, and executives were already seated, murmuring in low tones about the colossal deal on the agenda, Project Atlas. The $5 billion contract that could reshape global markets. Ethan Cole entered, commanding the room's attention with the effortless authority that came from decades of climbing the corporate ladder. Suited and impeccable, he carried the weight of billions on his shoulders. Yet as he scanned the room, his mind wasn't on numbers or graphs. It was on her, the intern who had just returned to his life, the girl who had haunted his memories for 12 years. He cleared his throat. Ladies and gentlemen, he began, his voice smooth and controlled. Thank you for being here. Today we're not just discussing a deal. We're redefining what Blackridge Global stands for. The room leaned in. Every eye was on him. Every mind waited for his verdict. And then, almost on impulse, Ethan made a decision that stunned everyone in the room. He gestured toward the doorway. I'd like to introduce someone very important to this project. Someone whose insights and contributions will be pivotal from now on. All eyes turned as Lily Hart stepped forward, hesitant but composed. She carried her folder tightly, aware of the whispers that rippled through the boardroom. Intern, unknown, temporary. Ethan's gaze met hers, a silent question. Are you ready? She nodded, a flicker of determination in her eyes. Yes, she said. And so, Ethan continued, his voice unwavering, Lily Hart will be leading Project Atlas. A collective gasp echoed through the room. The investors exchanged incredulous looks. The executives froze mid-sentence. Some mouths opened and closed, struggling for words. Leading. An intern? One senior executive finally managed to say, his tone laced with disbelief. Yes, Ethan said firmly. She has shown exceptional analytical skills, insight, and vision. This deal will require someone who sees beyond numbers. Someone with the courage to challenge the conventional. Lily Hart is that person. Lily's eyes widened. She opened her mouth, but no words came. The room was spinning, yet Ethan's calm presence anchored her. She began, voice trembling slightly. I'm just an intern. I've been assisting the team. I'm not. You are exactly what this project needs, Ethan interrupted gently, yet with unmistakable authority. And I trust you completely. A mix of murmurs and raised eyebrows filled the boardroom. Some were skeptical. Others were clearly intrigued. But no one dared to challenge Ethan Cole when his mind was made up. As she stepped forward to sit at the head of the table next to him, Lily's heart raced. The folder in her hand suddenly felt heavier, not with documents, but with possibility. She glanced at Ethan, searching for hidden feelings and unspoken words. The boardroom had quieted, but the undercurrent of tension was palpable. Investors whispered to one another. Analysts furiously scribbled notes, and a few skeptical executives exchanged incredulous glances. Yet Lily sat at the head of the table, gripping her folder, her pulse racing but her expression calm. Beside her, Ethan's presence was steady, a silent anchor in a sea of uncertainty. As the meeting began, Lily's hands shook slightly as she opened the folder. But her mind was sharp. She had spent months analyzing data, running simulations, and learning the nuances of corporate strategy. But this, leading a $5 billion project, was unlike anything she had ever faced. She glanced at Ethan, whose eyes met hers for a brief moment. There it was again, a spark of recognition, of unspoken history. The first presentation slide lit up on the screen, showing graphs and projections for Project Atlas. Lily took a deep breath, her voice clear and steady as she addressed the room. Our analysis indicates that this acquisition, if executed strategically, can increase market share by 25% within the first year. The key will be a phased integration plan focused on operational efficiency and brand alignment. Murmurs ran through the room. Some nodded in approval, others skeptically tapped their pens. Ethan watched her with a mixture of pride and awe. 12 years ago, she had been a girl who read in corners, shy and gentle. Now she was commanding a room, filled with some of the most powerful people in the business world, her intellect shining through every word. Halfway through the presentation, a particularly critical executive raised an eyebrow. "Miss Hart, these projections are ambitious. What if the integration fails? What safeguards are in place?" Lily met his gaze, unwavering. "We've designed multiple contingency plans, including phased rollouts and parallel operational testing. The data shows a strong probability of success if we adhere strictly to our timelines and maintain constant oversight." The room went silent. Her confidence, paired with precise reasoning, left no room for argument. Ethan's chest tightened. He remembered the little Lily, her stubborn determination, her refusal to back down when she knew she was right. That same spirit was alive, stronger than ever. After the meeting adjourned, the room emptied quickly, leaving only a few executives lingering to congratulate her. Ethan stayed behind, letting the room's residual energy settle. Lily closed her folder and exhaled, finally letting herself feel the weight of what had just happened. "You did well," Ethan said quietly, his voice carrying that familiar warmth she hadn't heard in years. "Better than I ever expected." Lily's eyes met his, searching for any hint of the boy she once knew in the man he had become. "Thank you," she murmured. I couldn't have done it without your trust." Ethan hesitated, as if weighing his next words. The unexpected proposal, the flash of cameras and the murmur of reporters filled the Black Ridge Global lobby. Lily's heels clicked against the marble floor as she walked beside Ethan, both of them suddenly thrust into the public eye. Headlines would soon call it "The intern who sealed a $5 billion deal," or CEO's bold move with new talent. But Lily barely noticed the cameras. All she could feel was the warmth of Ethan's presence beside her, and the surrealness of the moment. Once the photographers moved on, Ethan led her into his office, a space she had only seen from a distance. Glass walls, sleek furniture, and a panoramic view of the city gave it a sense of untouchable power. Yet for Lily it felt intimate somehow, because the man who held her childhood memories walked with her into it. "You did more than impress the board," Ethan said, closing the door behind them. "You impressed me." Lily's cheeks warmed. "I thank you, Ethan. I didn't expect any of this." He walked over to his desk, then paused, leaning casually against it. "You've always been remarkable, Lily. I should have told you years ago. Back when I was just a boy with dreams, not a CEO with a portfolio." Her breath caught. "Told me what?" Ethan hesitated, the weight of 12 years pressing on him. "That I cared about you. More than I should have allowed myself to at that age. More than anyone would have expected from a boy like me." Lily's eyes widened, memories flooding back, their shared laughter in sunlit libraries, the stolen glances, the quiet moments where words didn't need to exist. "Ethan, I never forgot either," she whispered. He smiled, a mixture of relief and longing. "And now?" Her voice trembled slightly. "And now, I don't know what to do with all these feelings, but I know I'm here. I'm standing here because I trust you." Ethan stepped closer, the city skyline behind him casting golden reflections across the room. "Trust is a start," he murmured. "And I want more than that. I want to give you everything I never had the courage to give you before." Before Lily could respond, his phone buzzed with an urgent notification. The investors demanded immediate feedback on a minor adjustment to Project Atlas. He sighed but didn't. "Let go of the emotional momentum. Let's handle the business first. We'll handle us after." Lily nodded, refocusing. She had earned this opportunity, and now she had to prove it. Sitting at his sleek glass desk, she opened the project file and began reviewing the numbers with Ethan by her side. Yet every glance they exchanged was charged with unspoken words. Every correction, every suggestion carried an undercurrent of connection they hadn't allowed themselves to explore in years. Hours passed, and by the time they concluded the final review, the sun had dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows across the city. Ethan leaned back in his chair, exhausted but exhilarated. "You've changed my life, Lily," he said softly. Late-night confessions. The office was quiet, the hum of the city below barely audible through the floor-to-ceiling windows. Most of the staff had gone home hours ago, leaving only Ethan and Lily in the sleek, glass-walled boardroom. The glow from their laptops cast soft light on their faces, highlighting the exhaustion and exhilaration that came from closing the preliminary phases of Project Atlas. Lily leaned back in her chair, rubbing her temples. "I can't believe how fast today went," she murmured. From elevator chaos to that. She waved vaguely at the memory of the boardroom. The cameras, the whispers of astonished executives. Ethan chuckled softly, shaking his head. And to think, all it started with a stuck elevator. His eyes, however, betrayed a seriousness that made Lily's heart skip. There was something in them, something tender, something hesitant yet familiar. "You've changed a lot," she said quietly, almost to herself. "Not just professionally. You're different." "I had to change," he admitted, moving closer. His hands rested on the edge of the desk, framing her in a way that made it impossible to ignore the electricity between them. "But some things never change." Lily's breath caught. "Like what?" "The way I've felt about you since we were 12, he said, his voice low, intimate. "I never stopped caring. Even when I became Ethan Cole, CEO of Blackridge Global, I thought about you every day, wondered where you were, whether you were happy, whether you'd think of me again." Lily's eyes glistened. "I thought about you too," she admitted. "All those years. I wondered what happened to you. I never imagined you'd be standing here, in front of me, trusting me with something this huge." Ethan's gaze softened. "Trust is one thing," he said, stepping even closer. "But seeing you here, it's something else entirely. You've grown into someone incredible. Someone I want in my life, professionally and personally." Her pulse quickened. "Ethan, Before she could finish, he reached out, brushing a stray lock of hair behind her ear. It was a gentle, tender touch, full of unspoken longing. Lily felt a warmth spread through her chest. A mix of nostalgia, desire, and relief. They stood there for a long moment, the city lights casting patterns across the office floor. It felt like the world had shrunk to this quiet room, to these two hearts finally reconnecting. Finally, Ethan spoke again, his voice barely above a whisper. "I don't want to waste another 12 years. I want you in my life, Lily, not just as an intern, not just as a partner in business, as the person I've loved all along." Tears pricked at the corners of Lily's eyes. "I never stopped loving you either," she whispered. Ethan's smile was soft, filled with both triumph and relief. He closed the distance between them, and their hands finally met, tentative at first, then intertwining naturally. It was a touch that carried a promise of trust, of the first challenge. The following morning, the office was alive with urgency. Project Atlas had entered a critical phase, and every minute mattered. Lily arrived early, clutching her folder tightly, determined to prove she was more than just an intern, elevated by a CEO's trust. Yet beneath her focus, her thoughts kept drifting back to Ethan, his presence, his words, and the way his gaze lingered on her during late-night discussions. Ethan was already in the conference room, reviewing notes with his usual intensity. But when he saw Lily enter, the corner of his mouth lifted slightly, a small, private acknowledgement that only she could read. "Good morning," he said, his voice casual but warm. "Ready to tackle the first challenge?" Lily nodded, taking a seat beside him. More than ready. Their first task was a negotiation call with one of the project's key partners, a multinational corporation with significant stakes in Project Atlas. The partners were demanding adjustments to the original terms, pushing for concessions that could reduce Blackridge Global's projected profit. Lily took a deep breath and began outlining the counterproposal she had prepared, citing data, timelines, and strategic benefits. Her voice was steady, her reasoning clear and precise. Ethan watched her closely, noting the subtle ways she commanded attention without raising her voice, the way she anticipated objections before they were even voiced. The call began, and soon the room was filled with tense exchanges. Questions were sharp, objections pointed, but Lily handled each with a combination of intellect and grace that left the other side momentarily speechless. Ethan intervened only when necessary, offering support, clarifications, and strategic insights. As the negotiation progressed, Lily could feel the room's energy shift. The initial skepticism gave way to respect. By the time the call ended, the partners had agreed to the terms, with minimal concessions. When the line went dead, Ethan turned to her, a rare smile breaking through his otherwise composed demeanor. "You did it," he said. "You handled that perfectly." Lily exhaled, relief washing over her. "We did it," she corrected, her eyes meeting his. There was a shared understanding, a silent acknowledgement that their combined efforts had brought success. Ethan's gaze softened. "You know, I always knew you were capable of more than anyone realized." Lily felt her cheeks warm. "I had a great teacher," she said playfully, referring to him, though her heart skipped at the underlying meaning. The day pressed on with calls, meetings, and updates. Each challenge tested her skills and her composure. But with Ethan by her side, she felt unstoppable. Yet, beneath the professional triumphs, a new complexity began to emerge. The boundaries between work and the emotions they were rediscovering. As the sun dipped behind the skyscrapers, casting long shadows across the city, Ethan and Lily finally stepped out of the rumors and resistance. The office buzzed with energy, but not all of it was positive. By midweek, whispers had begun circulating among executives and interns alike. Did the CEO really hand a $5 billion deal to an intern? And how does she know so much? The murmurs were inevitable, and the higher up the chain you went, the more skeptical the tone became. Lily felt the weight of their stares as she walked through the corridors. Her confidence from the boardroom and negotiation calls now met a new challenge: social scrutiny and silent judgment. She clutched her folder a little tighter, reminding herself that her skills, preparation, and dedication had earned her place here, not the rumors or assumptions. Ethan noticed immediately. His sharp instincts picked up the subtle tension as soon as he entered the office. He intercepted her in the hallway, his presence a shield. "Ignore them," he said quietly. "You've earned every bit of your place here." Lily looked up at him, searching his eyes for reassurance. "It's hard," she admitted. "I know I'm capable, but people are watching, and not in a good way." Ethan nodded, his expression serious. "I know, but you're not alone. Not now, not ever. And they'll see soon enough what I've known all along. Your talent speaks louder than any gossip." The next challenge came in the form of a board review session. Senior executives, some clearly skeptical of Lily's sudden prominence, questioned her strategies and demanded proof of her projections. The room was tense, the air thick with doubt. Lily took a deep breath and presented her analysis with clarity and precision, explaining every step of her methodology, every assumption, and every contingency plan. Halfway through, a senior executive interrupted sharply. "Miss Hart, we appreciate your effort, but experience counts in negotiations of this magnitude. How can we trust an intern with this responsibility?" Lily's eyes met Ethan's, and he gave her the tiniest nod of encouragement. Drawing on every ounce of her confidence, she responded firmly, "Experience is valuable, but insight, preparation, and strategic thinking are equally important. I've prepared thoroughly, and the data supports every recommendation I'm making. I'm asking you to trust the evidence, not assumptions based on titles." The room went silent. One by one, skeptical glances softened into reluctant acknowledgement. Ethan observed quietly, a small, proud smile forming. She was holding her ground, not just as a professional, but as someone reclaiming her place in a world that had underestimated her. After the meeting, Ethan walked her back to her desk. "See?" he said gently. "You didn't just face the skepticism, you owned it." Lily exhaled, tension leaving her shoulders. "Thanks to you," she said softly. He paused, his gaze lingering. "Not just me. You did it yourself, and don't forget, you have more than just skill on your side." Her heart skipped a beat. She knew exactly what he meant. A glimpse of the past. The city lights flickered outside the towering windows of Black Ridge Global, reflecting in the polished surfaces of the boardroom where Ethan and Lily were, wrapping up another long day. The team was exhausted, but the preliminary reports on Project Atlas were promising. For the first time since the deal had started, there was a sense of calm, a brief pause in the storm. Lily leaned back in her chair, her mind swirling with numbers, strategies, and the lingering awareness of Ethan's presence. She glanced at him, noting the subtle way he studied her, a mix of professional interest and something far deeper. She couldn't help the small smile that tugged at her lips. "You've grown so much since back then," Ethan said suddenly, breaking the silence. His voice was soft, reflective. Lily tilted her head, curious. "Back then?" He leaned against the edge of the table, arms crossed, eyes distant. "When we were kids. I never told you how much I remembered. Every little thing, every laugh, every secret. And seeing you now, it's like pieces of the past have come alive again." Her chest tightened, memories surged, the library where they had spent countless hours reading, the rainy afternoons sharing umbrellas, the unspoken promises that had dissolved when life pulled them apart. "I remember too," she whispered. "I remembered you all those years. I just never imagined." She trailed off, glancing at the city below, feeling the weight of both nostalgia and the present. Ethan stepped closer, lowering his voice. "I didn't expect to find you here, leading this project. But maybe fate has a way of giving second chances." Lily's heart fluttered. "Second chances," she echoed, letting the words linger. "I've dreamed about this moment. Ethan, not just being here professionally, but us." He reached out, his fingers brushing hers across the table. The touch was electric, grounding and familiar all at once. "I never stopped dreaming either," he admitted. Even when I became CEO, even when life moved forward, you were always there, quietly, constantly. A silence fell over them, charged with emotions neither could fully express. Outside, the city thrummed with life, oblivious to the reunion unfolding high above in the glass towers. Inside, the two of them were suspended in a moment between past and future, between memory and reality. Finally, Lily broke the quiet. "We've come so far," she said, voice trembling slightly. "And yet, it feels like we're just getting started." Ethan nodded, a soft smile touching his lips. "Just getting started," he echoed. And in that moment, amidst spreadsheets, presentations, and billion-dollar decisions, something far more precious had begun to bloom. Trust, connection, and the rekindling of a love that had never truly faded. As they stood together, hands brushing, hearts quietly sinking, both understood that the past had led them here for a reason. The challenges, the test of trust. The following week brought a new wave of pressure. Project Atlas had entered a critical execution phase, and minor setbacks were inevitable. Lily arrived early, reviewing every number, every projection, and every contingency plan. She had learned quickly that in a deal of this magnitude, precision wasn't enough. Anticipation, intuition, and adaptability were just as crucial. Ethan joined her shortly after, his presence a quiet reassurance. He noticed the slight furrow in her brow and the way she tapped her pen nervously. "You're overthinking it," he said softly, leaning against the desk. "You've prepared for this more than anyone could ask." Lily looked up, a hint of a smile breaking through. "I know, but this is $5 billion. One wrong move and it all falls apart." "Then trust yourself," Ethan replied. His voice carried authority, warmth, and something unspoken that made her heart skip. "I trust you." As the day unfolded, they faced an unexpected challenge. One of the project's key partners questioned a strategic move Lily had recommended. Tensions escalated over emails, calls, and last-minute adjustments. The pressure mounted, and for a moment Lily felt the familiar pang of doubt. Ethan stepped in, not to take over, but to support. "Lily, present the data as you've prepared it," he said firmly during a conference call. "You know this better than anyone. I'm right here if you need me, but this is your call." That moment crystallized everything. Lily had been fighting for, not just professional recognition, but personal validation. She straightened her shoulders, took a deep breath, and walked the partner through her recommendations, anticipating objections, providing alternative strategies, and demonstrating confidence beyond her years. By the end of the call, the partner had agreed to her plan with minimal changes. The room exhaled collectively, and Ethan let out a quiet chuckle of pride. "See?" he said, offering a small smile. "You didn't just survive, you excelled." Lily felt a rush of relief and accomplishment. But amidst the professional triumph, her thoughts kept returning to Ethan. "I couldn't have done this without you," she admitted quietly. "You did it yourself," he said, stepping closer. "I just reminded you of the strength you already had." There was a charged silence between them, a mixture of gratitude, respect, and lingering emotion from years past. Ethan's gaze softened. "Lily, I want you to know something. No matter what challenges come next, I'm not just your partner in business. I'm here for everything else too." Her chest tightened. "I know," she whispered. And in that simple acknowledgement, the unspoken words of trust, love, and connection found a quiet home. Outside, the city continued its relentless pace, oblivious to the silent victories and emotional breakthroughs occurring high above in Black Ridge Global. Inside, Lily and Ethan had faced their first real test, not of numbers or straight A future together. The night had settled over the city, the lights of Black Ridge Global's skyscraper blazing like stars above the skyline. Inside, Lily Hart sat at her desk, reviewing the final reports for Project Atlas. It had been a whirlwind journey, from a chance elevator encounter to a $5 billion deal, to earning her place as the lead strategist of the company's most important project. Her hands trembled slightly as she clicked through spreadsheets, cross-referencing projections, but beneath the exhaustion there was a quiet satisfaction. She had survived, and more importantly, she had thrived. Ethan Cole appeared in the doorway, silhouetted by the glow of the office lights. Even in this quiet hour, his presence was magnetic, commanding, reassuring, familiar. "Still at it?" he asked softly, a hint of amusement in his voice. Lily looked up, smiling tiredly. "I have to make sure everything is perfect before tomorrow's final approvals. Any mistake now?" She trailed off, shaking her head, trying to silence the self-doubt that had occasionally crept in over the past few weeks. Ethan stepped closer, his eyes softening. "No mistakes tonight. You've already proven yourself beyond any doubt. Everyone will see it tomorrow. And I want you to know what I've known all along." Her pulse quickened. "What's that?" He moved closer, gently taking her hand. "That you're remarkable. That you're capable of anything you set your mind to. And that I don't want to waste another moment without you in my life." Her chest tightened. 12 years of memories, dreams, and longing surged forward. The sunlit library corners, shared books, rainy afternoons together, fleeting touches, whispered confessions that had never been spoken aloud. "Ethan, You don't have to say it yet," he interrupted softly. "I just need you to know that I've loved you all along. Even when life pulled us apart, even when we didn't speak, you were always here." He pressed a thumb gently to her hand. "And now I want us to face everything together." Tears pricked her eyes. I've never stopped loving you either," she whispered. Her voice trembled, but it carried truth and relief. The weight of years lifted in a single breath. Ethan smiled, a rare, genuine softness that made her heart soar. "Then let's not waste another day. Whatever comes next, this deal, the company, the world, we face it together." The following morning brought the final boardroom meeting. Investors, executives, and analysts waited anxiously, the culmination of months of work hanging in the balance. Lily walked in with Ethan by her side, each step a declaration of confidence. The room fell silent, curiosity and skepticism mixing in the air. She opened her folder and began her presentation. Slide by slide, she explained the details, the contingencies, the risks, and the strategic advantages of Project Atlas. She anticipated questions, addressed concerns, and displayed a command over the data that left no room for doubt. The initial skepticism in the room softened into admiration, then respect. Ethan observed silently, his pride barely contained. This was not just a professional victory, it was a personal one. He had seen her grow, faced every challenge alongside her, and now the world would see what he had always known. Lily Hart was extraordinary. By the time she concluded, the room was filled with applause. The investors signed off, the executives nodded, and even the most skeptical observers were forced to acknowledge her brilliance. Ethan leaned close, whispering, "You didn't just lead this project, you inspired everyone in this room." Lily's cheeks warmed. "We did it," she corrected. "Together." Later, when the office had emptied, Ethan led her to the balcony overlooking the city. The skyline stretched endlessly before them, a glittering testament to ambition and success. "I promised you a future," he said, voice low and steady. "And I intend to keep that promise." Lily leaned against the railing, her hair ruffled by the wind. "I believe you," she replied softly. "I've never believed in anyone the way I believe in you." He reached out, pulling her gently closer. "Then let's start now," he murmured. "No more waiting, no more doubts. You and me, we take this step together." Her heart raced. "Together," she echoed, letting the word hang in the night air. They stood there for a long moment, letting the city's lights mirror the quiet storm of emotions between them. Then slowly, Ethan leaned down, pressing a soft, lingering kiss to her forehead. A promise of trust, love, and partnership. Lily closed her eyes, feeling a weight lift off her shoulders. All the fear, all the doubts, all the years apart, they melted away in that single, perfect moment. In the weeks that followed, Project Atlas became an unprecedented success. Investors praised the bold move of a CEO, trusting his instincts and elevating a brilliant young strategist. Headlines celebrated Lily Hart as the intern who had led a historic deal, while Ethan quietly marveled at the woman who had always been in his heart. But for them, the greatest triumph was personal. They navigated the pressures of corporate life together, sharing quiet dinners after late nights of work, exchanging laughter in hallways between meetings, and supporting each other through every challenge. The connection that had been dormant for 12 years had finally bloomed fully, intertwining their lives in ways neither had dared to imagine. One evening, standing on the balcony high above the city, Ethan held Lily's hand and whispered, "No matter what comes next, we face it together, always." She rested her head on his shoulder, smiling through tears of joy. "Always," she replied. The world below continued its relentless rhythm, but above it all, in the quiet glow of the skyscraper lights, two hearts found their forever. The deal, the corporate battles, the whispers, they all faded into insignificance compared to